Hello, I'm Franco Luna Puma Podcast. You're listening to Teka Teka News, balitang thinking, hindi breaking. In this episode,
Ang mga kabataan po natin being the most vulnerable sector of society, nako, napaka-fragile po ng kanilang mental health. Hindi po natin yan nare-realize. Maybe some of us think that violence, sexual exploitation, yung mga child labor, yung mga pang-aapi sa kabataan, yan lang po. Hindi lang po yan, mga kasama.
we talk about the silent pandemic we've been facing. No, not COVID-19. The mental health crisis among young people in the Philippines.
For the longest time, I know you can relate to me that mental health is not being taken seriously. Sino po dito yung mga nabati na o nakarinig na ng mga joke na pag may mental health problem, sinasabi na matanda lang yan, nanuno sa punso.
So right now, sir, the situation of the Filipino youth with the mental health is a primary concern among youth, where 3 out of 10 youth, or 31%, is considered taking their own lives. And 1 out of 10 youth, or 70%, has taken steps and attempted suicide. So it has increased from 12.9% in 2015 to 17% right now.
You just heard National Youth Commission Executive Director Lea Villalon. The NYC had done internal studies on the mental health of Filipino youth. And the commission findings are clear. The problem is getting worse, and it's becoming a matter of life and death today. The University of the Philippines Population Institute also found in its Young Adult Fertility and Sexuality study that the number of young adults aged 15 to 25 who experienced suicidal ideation had nearly doubled from 2013 to 2021 to around 1.3 million. That's a term used by the World Health Organization to describe quote-unquote thoughts, wishes, preoccupations, and contemplations with death and suicide. Leah of the National Youth Commission says the pandemic had a lot to do with it. But what's worrying is that not even experts are sure how to address it.
I don't think sa buong mundo na-experience yung pandemic, nobody knows the effect kasi never pa sa atin, sa lahat ng tao sa buong mundo. Wala pa tayo na-experience na ganitong pandemic. We actually don't know and nobody has the data on the impact on the students. I want to add na, of course, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, has amplified much more serious youth mental health issues. So, ang data natin is 3 out of 10 of in-school youth do not have means to participate in online learning.
On paper, a lot of it is also caused by education disruption. Earlier on, parents and teachers said students were bearing the brunt of distance learning, while the lack of support from government only made the situation more difficult. That same study found that 7.5% of Filipino youth had actually attempted suicide in 2021. It's not just a statistic. Psychiatrists have seen this crisis in their work too. Listen to national scientist Dr. Honey Karandang. She's a clinical psychologist and the founder of the Mindfulness, Love, and Compassion Institute of Psychosocial Services. She says that even as we slowly transition back to the new normal, our children's minds are still processing the events of the past 2 years.
The whole picture is what has happened since the pandemic. Kasi nadadala mo nila yun hanggang ngayon. Dala natin lahat yun. You cannot say ngayon lang dahil nag-open up na. That does not tell you the picture, the true picture. The true picture is nagkaroon ng lockdown, and then from their social life where they were able to interact with their peers, biglang nawala. So you saw a lot of depression and family conflict kasi first time sila together in one house na hindi sila makalabas, no? That's a very, very big impact on the youth. Tapos, di na lockdown na. Tapos, nasanay na sila sa online. Hindi na sila gigising na maaga, magbibihes, lahat-lahat. Tapos, biglang nag-open na. You'd think it was just simple.
Past the pandemic restrictions, Karandang says the factors affecting children's mental health are dizzying. Everything from the traffic crisis to the pressures of school are a factor for young people.
So ngayon, biglang papasok sila ng on-site, face-to-face, grabe naman ang traffic. So they have to wake up very early, ganun. So ang dami-dami ang adjustment ng young people. Tapos ngayon, kahit na on-site na, ang dami-dami nilang homework pagdating sa bahay. I think the schools have not adjusted. We're talking to a lot of schools now. They have not adjusted. Kasi magbibigay sila ng maraming homework ng 7 in the evening. Parang akala nila yung online, nandun pa, pero nandun na yung on-site.
Beyond that, Karandang says the results of the politically charged elections are also still weighing on the youth.
The other trauma, in fact, that young people have gone through is the trauma of the elections. Maraming young people who volunteered and who really gave their heart and soul expecting a certain candidate to win. And then they were so totally disappointed, devastated, and depressed because parang hindi fair. That's their feeling.
Karandang says the pandemic only exposed these deeper problems.
The reason for their depression and suicidal ideation are family problems. Yun ang number one. There's a study.
That's also backed up by data. 1/10 of the calls the National Center for Mental Health Crisis Hotline got this year were also suicide-related, many of which came from minors triggered by bullying, anxiety, and problems at school and in the family. How did the numbers reach crisis levels? Angelo Tapales, director of the Council for the Welfare of Children, has an idea. He says it has a lot to do with the long-standing biases we have against the idea of mental health.
For the longest time, meron tayong stigma, ang society, may stigma at mysticism na ina-attribute po sa mental health problems. But of course, this is not really true. Mental health issues or mental health problems is as much a physical health problem or concern. Kumbaga, pareho lang po yan ng mga pagsakit ng mga parte po ng katawan natin.
So what can we do about it? As with all things, Leah from the National Youth Commission says it starts with understanding that the problem exists.
Ang pinaka-importante is, first, kailangan nila ma-recognize that there is an issue. And they know pwedeng mag-approach sila ng counselors or yung tao na pwede nilang makausap at malapitan.
Psychiatrist Honey Karandang also says families and schools have the biggest role to play in allowing children to adjust out of the pandemic.
Teachers, parents, society must be able to understand that this adjustment, even if we think that it's really good because patapos ng pandemic, is very difficult. The adjustment is difficult. They have to give leeway. They have to be kinder to the children, to the young people who are adjusting. Pagka sinasabing communicate, ang ginagawa ng parents, they talk to them, telling them what to do. That's not the right thing. The right thing is you sit down and then you listen to them. They listen to you. Ang problema, what's missing is we don't listen to our children because we think we know better. We don't. Sorry. At this point, we don't know much because this is a new thing for us too. And what we don't know is what they are feeling. Importante for one, let's talk about it. Let's make people aware that adjustment is a process. Let's make people know they should not expect everything to be okay already. Yun ang problema, the expectation. You cannot just suddenly be okay when you're not okay. There is a process that you have to go through in order to heal.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka. Again, I'm Franco Luna. This episode was edited by Mark Casilian and produced by Kat Ventura. If you or anyone you know needs help, the National Center for Mental Health has a 24/7 crisis hotline at 1553. If you like this episode, share it with a friend or two. And of course, don't forget to follow Teka Teka and Puma Podcast wherever you listen. At para sa mga mahilig manood sa YouTube, Puma Podcast na rin po kami doon. Just search Puma Podcast and subscribe to our channel.